Everybody. Tuesday, May 25th, 2021 at 6 p.m. The public service meeting. Let's have a roll call.
Alderman Sherry Pickering.
Here.
Eve Ludwig.
Yes, here.
Tricia Teague.
Present.
Aaron Troya. Robert Williams.
Present.
Darren York.
Present.
Chairman Rick Streeting.
Here.
6 present.
Okay, thank you. Item number 2 on the agenda, approval of the minutes of 3/23 of 21. Yeah, I guess move to dispense with the reading and approve and ask for your approval on those. And we'll have a roll call, please.
We need a motion in a second, please.
Yeah, so move.
Second.
Thank you.
All right. Any questions on any of it? If not, roll call, please.
Alderman Ludwig.
Yes.
Teague.
Yes.
Troya. Williams.
Yes.
York.
Yes.
Pickering.
Yes.
Streeting.
Yes.
6 yes.
All right. Item number 3 is approve the agenda for this evening. I don't believe there's any additions or anything taken out. So I'd like to make a motion to move to approve and dispense with the reading and ask for your approval.
So move. Yeah, second.
Roll call, please, if there are no questions.
Alderman Teague.
Yes.
Troya. Williams.
Yes.
York.
Yes.
Pickering.
Yes.
Ludwig.
Yes.
Streeting.
Yes.
6 yes.
All right. Put us to item number 4, audience comments. Do we have any this evening?
No, we don't, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. We'll move right to number 5, chairman's comments. I don't have any this evening, so we'll move to item number 6, the approval of payrolls for 5/21 of 21. Need a motion, and I'll move to approve and dispense with the reading and ask for your approval.
So move.
Second.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Troya. Williams.
Yes.
York.
Yes.
Pickering.
Yes.
Ludwig.
Yes.
Teague.
Yes.
Streeting.
Yes.
6 yes.
Puts us to item number 7, approve vouchers payable 5/25 of 21. Move to approve and dispense with the reading and ask for your approval.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
I'm new to this, guys, so bear with me. I'll get it down here soon.
You're doing good, Chairman. You got it.
Okay. Any questions on the vouchers payable?
I have a couple of questions.
Okay, go ahead.
On page 3 of 6, there are 3 vouchers for Tyler Technologies. What is that software? I'm curious about that one. And then there's another one on the next page, but I'll wait for the answer on that one first. It's at the bottom. It's close to the bottom of the page. One is for $35,5303. The other is $20,5333, and then the third one is $40,072.50.
I can answer 2 of those off the top of my head, and I'll have to pull the invoice for one of them.
Okay.
The second invoice, project management, 1 of 6. I believe that's my grant management and project accounting training invoice. We've done half of our training. We're implementing 2 modules that we bought when we bought the accounting software, but they were never fully implemented. So we've been doing some training on that. This $40,000 is the fire department's new software. They have a previous software to do their reporting that is no longer going to be supported. So they did end up purchasing a Tyler module that went through council, I believe, before you came on. So if you give me a minute, I can pull that other invoice if you want to ask other questions while I do that.
Okay.
I can tell you what the other one is. The mobile eyes is a fee for a program that is a tag off of that. That is the one that attaches to that we utilize in the trucks on the computers and most of it is predominantly for the use of inspections. When we go in and do inspections of businesses, inspections of schools and so forth, it integrates all that information in and attaches it to the reports and attaches it back to the CAD system with the PSB and everything. That's part of the package deal for the entire software and hardware to go along with our new reporting system that, again, we approved month and a half ago, and the bills have just gotten done. You will see, we have not ordered the hardware yet, but when we do get the hardware ordered, which should possibly be as early as Friday of this week, then shortly thereafter, you'll see an invoice for, I want to say it's about $50,000 for all the hardware, but it comes from a different, it won't be Tyler Technologies. It'll be a CDS computer systems.
Okay.
But that's all included.
Okay. Thank you very much for those answers. My second question is on page 6 of 6. I was curious to know what IAPE stands for. It's the second to the last item.
Let me pull that invoice for you.
Okay.
That is an acronym for an entity, but it's for evidence room certification for one of our, what's the word? Not officer police employees.
Our civilian police officers, our civilian.
That's part of, like, it begins with a C. I don't know why it's escaping me. Yates can probably offer more info on that.
So that's sufficient.
As the, is that good enough?
Yeah, that's good enough. Everything else was self-explanatory. Those weren't. So,
Any other questions? If not, roll call, please.
Alderman Williams,
Yes.
York,
Yes.
Pickering,
Yes.
Ludwig,
Yes.
Teague,
abstain.
Troya, Streeting,
Yes.
5 yes.
The motion carries. Item number 8, City Clerk's report. Ms. Munson, do you have items of information for us?
Yes, I do. I have a couple. First of all, I wanted to make sure everyone saw their email about the workshop for the newly elected officials. And you're also able to do the Open Meeting Act training. There's a link on that. So I just wanted to make sure everyone noticed that, because the OMA website is still down through the Attorney General's office, but you are able to print a certificate after this training. Anybody have any questions on that?
Do all the aldermen have to take the ethics again?
No.
Okay.
I just thought if you wanted a quick review of some things, you might be interested in just watching some of the virtual workshop, that you wouldn't have to actually take the Open Meeting Act training again.
Okay.
I do have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I know there's a 3-month requirement. It has to be completed within the 3 months. Because the website's been down, has that been extended?
They are not going to penalize anyone because of that. But
Thank you.
IML has come up with this alternative, which is good, because I know there's been a lot of people concerned about it. So,
Okay. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Lisa, do you have anything else for us?
Yes, I just wanted to give everyone a quick update on our records disposal. At our last meeting, we talked about having a cleanup day. And so City Hall was closed on March 26th, and we organized, we disposed of things. We were pretty busy. And I just wanted to personally thank, even though he's not on here, Director Carpenter and his staff, because they helped us immensely move things and dispose of, I don't know how many trucks they disposed of.
It was insane, broken furniture and you name it. It was just,
Right,
man.
right. And they were all great. They were very courteous, and also the mayor deserves kudos. He was in the middle of it, moving all kinds of things.
That's what happened to my hand. No, I'm just.
No. So it's amazing the records that we have in storage. We're going to have all kinds of room after we get these destroyed. Just a quick refresher course. We have to ask for approval to destroy our records from the state. So I've gotten everything approved, and we have a total of 907.75 cubic feet of records.
Oh
And
my.
364 banker boxes approved for destruction. So we are hope to have a scheduled visit from the shredding company on June 23rd. So
So since I'm out of commission, that means y'all get to come and split boxes instead.
yeah, we have to have them ready in the lobby area. Well, we're not gonna be able to get all those in the lobby area.
We're gonna take
The
some.
shred truck sits outside City Hall, and then we try to get them in and out here as quick as possible. So does anybody have any questions on that? And then for some other items, we sent out our annual liquor license renewals expiring June 30th. We have received several special event permit applications for outdoor events. People are getting back to planning events due to some of the lifted COVID restrictions and the warmer weather. And speaking of warmer weather, we've issued 5 food truck vendor licenses and 2 ice cream vendor licenses. So if you see any of those around town, I can email you the list of those vendors if you'd like to see those on who has licenses.
And we're excited because we have a couple of new ones this year. So, and not all of the old ones have renewed yet. So we should have a good food truck season, hopefully.
Right. And that's all I have.
Well, Lisa, I wanted to ask you, do you know anything about the state and the difference in the amount of money for the liquor tax and everything? Have you heard anything about this?
No.
I know it was it's $200 or $300 less than it was last year. So I thought maybe I'd ask you.
You said, are you talking about when you said liquor tax?
For the state,
You mean
Their
the
license.
state liquor license, Chairman?
Yeah.
The license fee?
yes.
I
just thought I'd ask.
Unless they gave them a break due to the bars having to be closed.
That could be.
Establishments having to be closed, but no, have you
Just-
received any?
I hadn't received any notice, no.
From what I'm understanding, it really wasn't no real explanation. It just came and it was $200 or $300 cheaper than it was last year. So.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, you're not talking about the Gale Grotto, are you?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, that's one of them. That's one of them.
Okay, but you also heard of others?
Yes.
Okay, this is the first I've heard of it, but they went from a class A to class E.
Okay, that's right. That's right.
Right, so
So that
there's, right.
That would make a difference. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anybody else have any questions for Ms. Munson? All right, thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome.
Next, we'll go to finance with Ashlyn Macy, the comptroller. 9A, items of information. We'll go right into risk management monthly report, personnel monthly report, and any additional items of information. Go ahead.
Ms. Corson is going to go ahead and give her report.
Okay.
Good evening, everybody. In your report, I did get informed I missed it when I did my report this month, is I forgot to change 2020 to 21. I used the same format per year per month, and so I missed changing the actual last digit of the year. But I assure you the report, the risk management report, is for April of 2021, even though it still says April 2020. So the numbers for our health insurance, that is the 2021 amounts that we paid. There were only 2 workers' compensation claims that were submitted. Both did require treatment, but only 1 had any time lost. And then we did have 6 liability claims for the month of April. 5 of those were the responsibility of another person or another insurance company. But unfortunately, 1 of those, we're only able to bill 4 of them because the roundabout fence was actually damaged by a hit and run. So we don't have any information or anybody that we can bill for that damage.
Oh, okay. Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Corson on her report? Thank you. And we'll move then to personnel monthly report. How about that?
All right, perfect. Good evening.
Hi.
Hi, so for your personnel report for the month of May, we hired 4 new employees, 3 probationary police officers, Heath Goodwin, Jared Greer, and Dustin Hornsborough. We also hired Joshua Gary as a full-time dispatcher. On the other hand, we also had 4 separations. We had 2 police officers leave. Nathan Howie retired and Brandon Phillips resigned. We had a bus driver, Jared Carter, that we had to discharge. And then we also had a full-time utility worker over at Mass Transit who quit. So, but on the good side, we did have 1 increase for employees. We had our part-time FOIA officer transfer to a full-time FOIA officer position, and that was Bill Westfall. So that gives us a net increase of 1 for this month. So we have 172 salaried employees, 62 hourly for a total, and 4 extra board for a total of 238 employees eligible for benefits. Currently, we have 28 seasonal part-time employees. Just items to note, we do have several open positions still there on your report, as you can see. And there were a few things I wanted to note. We have a couple of people retiring after quite a few years of employment with us. Executive Assistant Teresa Brazelton, she's going to be retiring June 4th after nearly 21 years of service. And then Evidence Manager Bruce Stark will be retiring May 31st after almost 43 years of service. And then Police Detective Phil Wilson will retire as a police officer and transfer to a civilian position of Evidence Manager on June 7th. So we had quite a few things going on here in personnel. And other than that, I think everything is there on your report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Does anything have any questions for Jamie?
I do.
Go ahead, Eve.
Okay, sorry, I'm going to put that hand down.
I can't see it. I don't know how to get the hand up, so.
Okay, I'm going to try to lower that hand real quick. So my question is about the Assistant Corporation Counsel on that open position, and I was just wondering what necessitates the need for that position.
Sure.
I know we haven't had one for a while, is what I understand.
That's Alderman, you are correct. We are at a place right now where we have a lot of real estate that we need to sell in terms of side lots. We also have real estate that we will be acquiring. Plus, nearly all of our ordinances have not been updated, some since before you and I were even alive. So, for example, you heard about in our meeting last week about the ordinance regarding campers, boats, et cetera, that hasn't been updated since 1980. So, long story short, we have a slew of legal work that we're going to need to do over the next couple of years to both continue our daily operations, but also to bring our codes back up to modern standard.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there any other questions?
Chairman, Chairman, I would like to note that we will be having a retirement party for Teresa. It will be here in City Hall downstairs from 2 to 4 p.m. on Thursday, June 3rd. So Thursday, June 3rd from 2 to 4 p.m. We will be having a retirement party downstairs for Teresa in the community room here at City Hall.
Oh, good.
Hope to see you there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ashlyn, do you have anything else for us? Additional items of information or any of you?
I do.
Okay.
I have a few small updates. As I mentioned a little earlier, the finance department has been working on getting our project accounting and grant management modules fully implemented. We did some training in early April, and we plan to do our final end user training in mid-July. We're working on getting a lot of that grant information keyed into the accounting system so that when we do the end user training, end users have practical examples that apply to them in the accounting system. So we're working on that. We didn't meet in April, so we went through fiscal year end. We completed our soft close of purchase orders. That went very smoothly. The budget was put in successfully, and the audit is already underway. Field work is scheduled to start the week of June 7th and go throughout June. We've already gotten a lot of our information to Clifton Larson to get that started. Some really good news, the American Rescue Plan Act Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Funds guidance is available. I received the terms and conditions yesterday, which I've never had funds, the paperwork be called terms and conditions. This is a first, but it arrived yesterday, so I hope to bring that, if not this coming week, very soon for council to review. We paid 3 loans off early this year, and we saved over $18,000 in interest by just making those loan payments earlier in the fiscal year. We had the cash flow available, it was in the budget, so I decided to make those payments a few months early. The biggest savings was on the 2002 Pierce refurbishment loan. Council approved some budget amendments last fiscal year to make an early payment in the last fiscal year, and then we made this final payment early. So just that loan alone saved $16,650. So I thought that was some good news to share.
Yes.
And then my last announcement or update would be, you probably all already got them, but this month was the first month that your sewer, garbage, and public safety pension fee bills were separated. This is the first step that citizens are experiencing towards us taking on our own billing and collections. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to call the finance department and we'll get those answered for you. But other than that, that's all I have.
Anybody have any questions for Ashlyn? Okay, thank you, dear. Thank you very much. Puts us to item number 10, Fire Chief Don McMasters. Items of information, and he's got his monthly incident report in front of you. Don, you want to take that on a little bit?
Absolutely. You see in front of you your fire incident report. I've got a little bit more numbers to go with it. Specifics on the fires. You see we had a total loss of $809,000 over the course of 6 fires. The biggest portion of that loss was due to, we had a fire at 1850 East Voorhees, which is a factory. They make, for lack of better terms, they take scrap moldy cheeses of various sorts, and they make pig food out of it. They had a fire in one of their burners, or their main burner, that did extensive amount of damage to the effect of about $2 million worth of damage to the structure and the unit that needs to be repaired now due to the course of that. The rest of our fires were typical structure fires. A handful of them were vacant structures, as is norm. To the total of loss, of about a little over $2,048,000. Again, $2 million of that was one building alone. So the other 5 structures amounted to about $48,000 worth of damage. That was our structure fires for the month of April, as well as our other service calls that we had in the month of April, totaling 295 calls for service over the month of April. A couple issues, I shouldn't say issues, a couple things we have going on. I just spoke to Ashland today about it. We just received notice in the mail from the Illinois State Fire Marshal's office that we apply for every year. Reimbursement funding from them for our trainings that we take during a year. Any of our employees that take any kind of training through the State Fire Marshal's office, including the Fire Academy that our new hires take, and any other coursework that they take, we can apply for reimbursement, and and then what they approve for money, then they will reimburse us back at 50%. So basically, it's essentially free money they give us. We went a little all out this year. We applied for about $46,000 and change of expenses that we applied for, that we figured they would probably throw a bunch of it out, as well as they did. They actually approved 24,000 of it. And so we're going to be getting a check for half of that, which is $12,269, I think, something like that. We should be receiving here in the next 7 to 10 days from the State Fire Marshal's office. Couple big projects. One main big project in the works, which we have meetings starting next week with the mayor to discuss our radio system that the fire department utilizes for the trucks and portables, as well as stations through the city of Danville. Our current radio system, that was a grant funded radio system, is extremely out of date and antiquated to the point that now when they have to make repairs, the repairman is looking on eBay for parts to replace on the units because they're outdated and they no longer miss the parts. So we're looking at that large ticket item right now. We also, the city has got city engineers are looking at our training tower behind the station. They've been there the last couple of weeks, and they've determined that the training tower that we have used for 40 plus years for training, the top 2 floors of that training tower are unable to be utilized anymore. They told us to stay off. Oddly enough, they told us to stay off the 4th-story roof and to stay off of the 3rd floor, but they told us we can still use the 1st and 2nd floor that are under the 2 floors that we can't use. So we've actually got another firm that they're looking at right now to coming in and giving us an idea what's going to be an expense to repair, if it's feasible to repair that tower for purposes of utilizing it for training. Those are 2 big things we've got going on right now. Otherwise, with the weather breaking, the guys are out a little more. They're starting to do more business occupation inspections, business inspections, as well as we've out doing more training again with all the new hires. We have potential for a couple people retiring this fall, and so we are possibly going to be looking for a couple new hires in the fall. They have started the process because our existing hiring list expires. It doesn't expire till, I believe, next year, but we're down to virtually no candidates on it. There's 3 or 4 names still on it, but most of them have moved out or have otherwise declined taking jobs. And so we're in the process right now. We've been accepting applications, and they're starting the testing process here in the next 30 days or so. And I surprised, glad to hear, and a little surprised, but glad to hear we had like 29 occupants that put in to test for the year. That's all I have for now. Any questions?
Any questions for Chief? Thank you, Chief. We'll go to number 11, Human Relations, Sandra Finch.
Chairman,
Roberts.
Chairman,
Yes.
I apologize. Alderman Williams, it looks like.
Oh, I'm sorry, Alderman Williams.
He's muted.
Can't hear you.
We need you to unmute yourself, please.
There you go.
Okay. Chief McMasters, that was curious as to, with the closing of the seminary underpass, has that caused any major problems for the city, or how are we handling that?
It puts a little damper. Our avenues of getting across, it's one of 3 avenues that we use getting across town without having to deal with trains. So it's now taken us down to 2. Reality, it's taken us down to 1 because we've got the Fairchild overpass now. And for instance, our trucks on the east side out of the main station at Station 3. Now that that's closed, we kind of play the game. We have 2 units that usually leave that station, plus the command officer. So 3 units to go to a fire across town on the west side. And so a lot of times they'll separate. One truck will go to the Fairchild or seminary, and the other truck will go the other direction so we can get them across as quick as possible. But obviously we're still dealing with train tracks in most places. We have not, I say this carefully, we have not seen any large delays as of yet with anything because of it. But obviously the sooner they open it, the better.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Chairman, I had a phone call from a gentleman that the firefighters helped recently, and I just wanted to commend Chief McMasters and the team publicly because they were really a great help to this gentleman, and he just wanted to make sure that they were acknowledged, and so I wanted to be sure to do that. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the chief? All right, then we'll move on to human relations. Ms. Finch?
Good evening.
Items of information in your monthly status report.
Hopefully you all received my report via email today.
Yes.
Okay, so for the period of April 20th through May 17th, the office handled 24 complaints, which consisted of 3 police complaints, 8 employment complaints, 2 complaints against other city employees, 10 housing complaints, and 1 public accommodation complaint. Any questions regarding the complaints? Okay, well, I just want to remind the council about Community Day. It's going to be held on July 11th in Lincoln Park from 2:30 to 4:30. That's a Sunday. Hopefully you all can join us. It's a nice event for the community. It's a real big picnic and everyone seems to enjoy it. Also want to report that we still have funding for people who have lost income because of the COVID. So if you know of anyone who needs any funding for their rent or for utility bills, we still have money available for that. That's all I have. Do you have any questions?
Anybody have any questions for Ms. Finch?
For the new alderman, Community Day is just a huge celebration in Lincoln Park. We have often music. There are records from years past where people can explore some of the things that have happened in the city. But the big thing that I think most folks really look forward to is C&D barbecue.
Yes.
I'm having mental blocks right now. C&D barbecue comes and they barbecue and do pork butt and hot dogs and hamburgers and then we get chicken from somewhere else. And we're the servers that day. It's a time for us literally to help serve and feed the public. So please come ready to work that day.
Yes, it's a lot of fun.
Sandra, what time did you say that is?
It starts at 2:30 at Lincoln Park.
2:30?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Somebody has their hand up?
Yes, Ms. Pickering.
Ms. Finch, how long does that last for the money that they hand out for the rental and the landlord, the rental? How much time do we have for that?
Well, right now, there really isn't a time limit. And I can also say that we have the calls for funding have really been declining. So we don't know, maybe people, because of unemployment that they're receiving, but there isn't a time limit right now. So, really, if you know someone, we still have the funding until United Way tells us to stop, giving out that money. We still have funding available.
Okay, and then
so there's no time frame.
And then that goes back to
United Way.
Okay.
Yes, now, you know, Logan, I'm pretty sure the mayor can make a comment about the money that Logan has
Right.
in terms of providing funding for COVID situations. Mayor, do you have anything on that? Does Logan?
We still do have some business funds available, although thankfully we finally had folks use a lot of those. We also do have a little bit of money eligible for individuals left, but not much.
Okay. And really, we don't have a lot either, Alderman Pickering, but we still have the money out there, and I'm pretty sure there's still people out there who need the funding. So we really need to get the word out for people who are, you know, hurting because of COVID, because of loss of income because of COVID.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Finch?
Yes, I do have a
Okay.
question.
Go ahead.
So I'm looking at the report, and I apologize because I'm new to some of this, but where it says, for example, housing complaints, it shows 10, but then it says 10 are closed. Is that of those 10, they have all been closed, or is that closed from previous complaints?
They all have been closed.
Okay.
For this period. I received those complaints during the period of April 20th through May 17th, and all those complaints were dealt with and resolved.
Okay.
They have been processed. So.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Administrator Finch, I was thinking maybe it might be helpful, since we have a couple of new aldermen, that nice layout that you put together for us of how you handle complaints and such, and what types of complaints that we receive. Could you resend that to the aldermen again? That way the new folks have it as well.
Sure, Mayor. I had actually thought about doing that. So yes, that's a good idea. I would definitely resend it out. I sure will.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you, Sandra.
Thank you.
Okay, next is information technology. Agnell.
Unfortunately,
he's not there, so I guess it's up to you, Mayor. Items of information?
Well, you all received Administrator Silva's report. Does anyone have any questions over any of that? As you can see, they've been incredibly busy, and they'll never stop being busy. And just when we think we've gotten where we want to be, then something else like what's going on over at police right now arises. So I thank God for our IT guys because they really are the ones who keep the city running behind the scenes. And so I appreciate them a lot.
Thank you, Mayor.
Chairman, this is an aside, but I would because it's related to Mr. De Silva. Unfortunately, a number of Mr. De Silva's family members, including his older mother in India, have been diagnosed with COVID. And as you've seen in the reports in the news, it's a dire situation over there. It's not like here where you can readily get vaccines or readily receive treatment. So please pray for Agnell's family. His mother, a sister, a niece, his brother-in-law all have it. They are truly quarantined, not like we were, where you could still go to the grocery store. They cannot even leave their homes. They sealed up their doors even, so someone has to deliver food. So please do pray for Agnell's family, because they certainly need it right now.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Item number 13, legal, from James Simon, the Corporate Counsel. We have
Corporation Counsel is actually literally moving to Danville as we speak, so he is off this week. I'll be covering that one too.
Okay. 13A, we have an ordinance approving the acquisition of real estate at 101 West North Street. I'll need a motion and a second. Move to dispense with the reading and ask for your approval.
Move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Hey.
All right, Mayor. Do we have any questions for the mayor about 101 West North Street?
If I may give a brief summary about what's going on and why we're involved at all, and then hopefully that'll answer a lot of your questions. But if you have further questions at that point, I'd be happy to answer them, of course. As most of you may know, a lot of folks don't realize that in Illinois, we're one of the last states that has an extra layer of government, and it's called township government. There are actually 3 different townships that make up part of Danville, the city of Danville proper, the largest one being Danville Township. For a number of years, the Danville Township was located right in the heart of downtown, on the corner of Walnut and North Streets at 101 West North. And they moved 2.5 years ago now to Tilton. Unfortunately, their building is full of asbestos. I mean, Tracy says it's one of the, for those of you who don't know, Tracy Kraft is our compliance coordinator. He's the one that's in charge of all of our demolition program. Unfortunately, Tracy said this is probably the most asbestos he's ever seen in a building in all of his years with the city. So there's tons of asbestos remediation that needs to be done, as well as the building to be torn down. In order for anyone to use that facility, they would first have to have the asbestos removed. And then the elevator doesn't work. There's lots of plumbing that needs to be replaced from things being shut down and no heat for a couple of years. So long story short, it would take several hundred to $1,000 to $1 million just to make that building occupiable. Unfortunately, with it being in the heart of our downtown, I don't see anyone coming forth with that kind of money. The space inside is actually kind of really segmented and broken up into smaller offices, which don't necessarily fit today's needs. And so the township, as you may know, their only source of funding is taxes. Their taxes barely cover the activities that they support as a township, which does include repair of some roads in the community as well as other services. So they are not able, they do not have the financial resources to take care of it. So what does that mean? That means that we have a major problem right in the heart of our downtown. I can tell you that a couple of nonprofits, including a drug and alcohol addiction nonprofit, were interested in the building, and they actually nearly acquired it. What would that mean? That'd probably leave us with situations like we've had with, for example, the old Lincoln School, where a huge structure is given to a nonprofit. They don't have the resources to tend to it. And then what ends up happening is that the city of Danville ends up tearing it down later. The only difference being that it becomes more dangerous along the way. And the people who live in that neighborhood or work in that neighborhood have to deal with the eyesore and the blight for a number of more years. So in trying to figure out how we could address that situation, the township does have $50,000 that they could contribute towards the project. So they have offered to pay us $50,000 in 2 payments as outlined there. And then we would receive the property and be responsible for the remediation of the demolition, which if in all honesty, we think is going to be around $200,000 or $250,000. Chairman, I'm open for questions or comments.
Anybody have questions for the mayor? I've got a comment. I mean, I know probably about 2 years before they moved out that they weren't using or utilizing the upper part of the building because of the heating problems and everything else. And like you said, it's so botched up. I don't imagine some of them offices are 6 by 6. I mean, they're that tiny and that small. I really hate to see it go because, you know, I've got an old book that states that at one time that was a funeral home there. So I'm going to get it and I'll bring it down and show it to you. But I really, it's a yes and a no type situation. You don't really want to spend the money, but at the same time, you're going to have an albatross if you don't. So,
Chairman, I can tell you, I personally went and looked at the building because, as you all know, I love historic buildings. Look at my house. There is tons of black mold in that upper floor that would have to be remediated too. I mean, there's you can tell where it looks like there's an active leak. It's in bad shape. There are 2 pages of building code violations that our building inspector found that would have to be remedied before it was even able to be occupied.
Okay. Does anybody? Okay, Ms. Pickering.
did say they are paying us $50,000. Did I hear you correctly?
Yeah, yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Okay, because I didn't see that. Okay.
In two installments, Alderman Pickering, they'll pay us $40,000 upon completion, and then the other $10,000 by the end of next year. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, that's a lot better than I thought it would be. I thought we'd get stuck with the whole thing. So thank you.
Yeah, you know me, Chairman. I'm not everyone has to pay their part, or we're gonna try to figure out how we can save some money somewhere. I mean, I wouldn't let it go. It shouldn't be our problem in the first place, but unfortunately, there's no other way to remedy it. So I figured I appreciate the township for being able to, for contributing what they realistically can. Chairman, it does look like you have two more. I think Vice Chairman O'Kane and then Chairman Poor as well.
Okay, go ahead, Vice Chair. Sherry, do you have something?
No, not me.
Okay, Mike?
No, Vice Chairman O'Kane.
Oh, Mr. O'Kane.
Just a couple of comments. What area of our budget would that money come from?
If I recall correctly, it would come from our demolition budget.
Correct, 310.
310. I was wanting to say 309, but from 310.
That's half of a year's income.
It's about a quarter of a year's income, right, Ashlyn?
Yes. Yeah. When you put all of the lines together that are associated with demolitions, it's about a quarter.
Okay, and then number two, are we setting a precedent as far as taking care of other government agencies? Cannon School is standing empty. Another school they're talking about closing. Where's that put us as far as taking care of other government entities? You know, I just kind of question. We're putting ourselves in a bad position.
What I would say, Vice Chairman, is we're in a bad position with this one any way that you go, because they don't have the money to demolish it. So what does it mean? That it'll sit there and rot until we get just enough tired of it, then we'll have to tear it down anyways. So in my mind, this is us being proactive and protecting our downtown instead of being reactive and waiting for something to rot. But I do understand your point. There's another huge difference between us and the school, between downtown, the township and the school district. The school district has tons of millions of dollars in reserves. And they also, I believe, are working on an active plan to demolish Cannon School. And I think they will not work on the other school until a final determination has been made. But I think we as a council and the community as a whole will hold the leadership there accountable for their buildings. We're not going to have any more Lincoln schools.
Well, I'm just looking back at Lincoln School, what that cost us.
Right.
I hope the voters of our community keep in mind what the township has done to our budget. That's all I got to say.
Okay, let's go to Alderman Williams.
Yeah, I had a question in regards to the funding coming out of the already designated money for demolition of housing here in the city. We're already behind on those. Now we're going to get further behind.
No, I don't think we're behind. We actually demolished more houses last year than we ever have, Mr. Alderman Williams. And then the year before that was the second most houses we've ever demolished. So we've demolished more houses in 2019 and 20 than we did in almost the 5 years previously combined. So I don't believe that this will put us behind. I think that we just received notice that we received another from IDA. We received another additional funding, grant funding, I think of almost $40,000 for additional blight removal. And that combined with the previous grant that we just received from them, we have an extra couple of $100,000 to use this year that we don't normally have. So I don't anticipate this putting us any further behind schedule, because of the influx of the resources, other resources to continue to demolish residential structures.
Anything else, Alderman Williams?
No, I believe that answers my question. I just
Okay.
was concerned. I'm sitting beside two houses that are on the list, and I don't see any movement on them.
Okay, thank you. Chairman Poor, do you have anything?
Yes, Mayor, could yourself and Chairman Streven and I meet to talk about that property once the building's gone? Not
Chairman,
gonna say-
I imagine you all might have some ideas on how that could be utilized.
Yes. Yeah, we, oh my gosh, we own all the way up to it.
Right.
I don't want to, but if we could maybe
Sure,
have a
we can
discussion
absolutely meet to
to
discuss.
recoup
that.
some of the money.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Miss Pickering, do you have some? I seen you, Miss Teague, as well. Either-
The 50,000 that they're paying us, will that go back into 310 fund?
That'll go into the 310 to help offset the cost of asbestos remediation and demolition. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Miss Teague, you had something?
Yes, and where would this fall on the list of priorities for demolition?
In terms of safety, it would not be a main priority, if I'm being honest. The building is not great, but it's not going to collapse into the street incredibly soon. However, in terms of project areas, it would be high on it because of the efforts that we've been putting into basically shoring up our downtown and making sure that we have an environment where business can thrive and where people feel safe. So in terms of actual danger, Alderman Teague, it's not an imminent threat. In terms of working project areas and also cleaning up main thoroughfares, that would be high on the priority list.
Anything else, Alderman Teague?
Does that translate into a time frame?
So my hope is that we would be able to take it down sometime this fiscal year, so sometime prior to April 30th of 2022. Alderman Teague, did you have any further questions or comments for
Nope,
me?
that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, I've got a question for you. Do you know if there are any of the hidden rooms like you have on so many of the other buildings we had on different places around that building?
Now, I don't know of any, and I walked that building every inch, even every crevice of the basement personally, because I was hoping that it would be able to be saved. And I didn't come across any. That does not mean that there aren't some that exist, but I am not aware of any, nor did in my exploration or the inspections of our inspectors did we find any such things. So.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other questions for the mayor?
It looks like Alderman Ludwig has.
Yes. Ms. Ludwig?
Yes, I was just wondering if there was any EPA grant program available specifically for this site. I really don't know a whole lot about this, but maybe like the EPA Environmental Justice Small Grant Program. I don't know, for this building, especially since it has asbestos and the most you've ever seen. I'm just curious if we've looked into anything like that.
So we have looked into that. We have not found any grant projects that would be available for it at this time. That does not mean, Alderman, that they couldn't become available in the future, though.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. I'm sorry, guys. Sometimes you change positions on the screen, so I'm looking at you here and then you're there, and it looks like I'm talking to ghosts, but I promise I'm not.
Yeah. Do you have any other questions for the mayor on purchasing or acquisition of the real estate at 101 North Street?
Chairman, it looks like Chairman Poor has his hand as well.
Chairman Poor?
Yes, and this would be similar to what we did with the Harwell Hotel, where it could become a green side or a parking area. There's some partners out there that would help, I'm sure, improve and make that. And Alderman or Chairman Streven and myself when we meet with the mayor, we might have some good news.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. If no other questions, roll call, please.
Alderman York.
You're muted, Alderman.
Sorry about that. Yes.
Thank you. Pickering,
Yes.
Ludwig,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
Troya, Williams,
No,
Streebing,
Yes,
5 yes.
and the motion carries. That puts us to item number 14 with Police Chief Chris Yates and Mr. Miller. We have 14A, a resolution approving the submission of a grant application for the 2021 COPS hiring program. Move to approve and dispense with the reading and ask for your approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions? Chief, did you want to talk a little bit about this one?
Yes, this is something that there hadn't been a COPS hiring program grant for a while. There was a large pause in it. It came back last year, and it just wasn't the right time. Obviously, with the pandemic, we didn't really know what the future looked like as far as needs in other places, even though we had needs as well. We had to prioritize like you all have and everything else. This came available again, and for one, it addresses a lot of the problems that we're challenged with, and different community requests that we're challenged with, and it's difficult to not have a immediate mitigation to dealing with some of the challenges. This also will help us as far as, chasing our tails with hiring. We're budgeted for 64.5 right now, police officers, and we're one under full strength, which is pretty good until you consider that 6 of our guys that we've hired are still in training. So this is another thing that once the grant is over, it will create a pause for us to catch our breaths and manpower to where we're actually up to the 64.5 on the street. And then it also gives us the option to maintain based off the needs of the community. So as far as specific questions, I can answer those if you have any concerns.
Anybody have any questions for Chief Yates about this grant? If not, then roll call, please.
Alderman Pickering,
Yes.
Ludwig,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
Troya, Williams,
yes,
York,
Yes.
Streebing,
Yes.
6 yes.
Thank you. The motion carries. Resolution carries. Item B, items of information. We'll go into the special units on the 1-year review of the POP.
Yeah, now this is going to cover both the POP unit as well as the community housing unit. The POP unit got a lot of, a lot of attention and stuff, but essentially it's 2 units that work similar, sometimes cooperate and collaborate together. They both support CID. They both support patrol. One's assigned to patrol commander, which is the POP unit. The other one's assigned through CID, being CHU. We didn't know. We knew that we could do some good things with it. But I think it's even exceeded a lot of our expectations. And without any further ado, I'm going to let Commander Miller give a little bit of insight. Now, you've seen the on the what we set forward with some of the data that was provided, reference to the POP unit, enforcement activities and other things that they did. And quite a bit. And matter of fact, it's hard to keep a rolling number when someone says how many guns they get off the street. It changes, vastly. And that's what the CHU is also. So I want to turn it over to Commander Miller. If you have any questions, you can ask him, and if one of us can answer it.
Thank you, Chief. Just to echo off what he said, I think we got another gun off the street 2 days ago, so that number can go up one, which is always something that makes me happy and Chief happy and the citizens happy. But the POP unit's composed in the summary of 4 officers, and then I'm the supervisor. My primary functions was second shift patrol. However, I am responsible for the POP unit. I can assign them to certain details or certain complaints that we may have. Their primary hours so far have been, especially in the warmer months, typically at 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. In the winter. They kind of split a week schedule between a 9 p to 5 p and a 3 p to 11 p. It just kind of depends on calls for service and where we're needed. As of to date, I think as of probably 3 minutes ago, we've had 14,924 incident tickets created. That's anything from calls to service to officer initiated action. So some of these numbers you see, like arrest other, calls for service desist, public nuisance, tows, even traffic citations and ordinance violations. That's all stuff that they've not only been able to take actions and make Danville a better community, but they've also been able to assist patrol and free up officers to spend more time in their devoted or assigned areas. So I think that's one of the important aspects of the unit that kind of goes unnoticed. It's not necessarily the numbers they put up, but what they allow the other cars on the street and myself as a supervisor to accomplish. So I mentioned before, the guns is always a big one. Anytime we can get guns off the street, it's good. Whether they're charged or convicted, our primary mission is to take them out of the hands of people that don't need them. And we've been pretty successful with that. We've had a lot of positive feedback from community members. The POP unit members have engaged in community functions, a lot of stuff with children and events in the community. They're in the parks quite a bit. So all the feedback's been pretty positive regarding that. Just in the interest of keeping it brief, is there anything that anybody sees in the summary or the POP unit numbers that they would have a question over?
Anybody have any questions for either one of the officers and chief?
One of the unique things about the POP unit is it's kind of evolving. If we have a certain need in the community today and we take care of that, something pops up tomorrow, it's a pretty quick, ideally it's a pretty quick fix where the chief or another commander or sergeant can email me and say, hey, we have an ongoing issue. And the POP unit allows us to devote them rather than take away from patrol numbers that are in dedicated areas to handle such issues. So we've had pretty good success in that. They work with other agencies. They work with outside agencies. They work with the Marshal Service. If somebody comes to Danville to hide out on a warrant for severe charges, they've been pretty successful in criminal apprehension. So if anybody does have any questions or anything pops up, you can reach out to me at any time.
Okay, Alderman Teague.
Okay, so I want to make sure I understand the details. So the POP unit is a supplemental unit in addition to patrol, and the POP unit is in service from 3 to 11.
Those are their typical hours. Yeah, they are supplemental in addition to patrol. They do not count as manpower. So if we have a manpower shortage, they're not allowed to fill in that spot and take away from their unit. And then, like I said, their primary hours are 3 to 11. Those will probably adjust a little more in the summer. I know third shift has sent some requests for maybe some 6P to 2A or 7P to 3A, depending on the weekends and what events are going on. But when I make their schedule for the sake of trying to be convenient towards those guys, I say plan on summer hours of a 3 to 11 with the option to adjust. And when those guys take that assignment into the unit, they're kind of told that I may call you on a day off and say, come in, we need you, or I may say you got to stay an hour or two late. So they're typically more than willing, and I don't get too much feedback from them regarding the last minute change.
Yeah, the reason why I asked the question, and thank you for the answer. The reason why I asked the question, because I do live on East End, and I know in terms of incidents of shots fired, it's typically after 11 over here. So that's why I was asking the question. So then after 11, it's just patrols and no additional units in place.
It depends on the night and on the weekend, and I'll let the chief touch on that a little more too, because the community housing unit also adjusts their hours.
Okay.
And they're not necessarily, I mean, their primary function is in housing areas or apartment complexes or specific living areas, but they help out on the street as well. So, yeah, I mean, we're aware of some of the issues you're talking about, and I've talked with Commander O'Brien, who's the third shift commander. So we're putting a couple plans together now for some later details after 11 p.m. Okay. And if you have any specific areas or concerns, just reach out to me, and I can almost promise you the day you reach out to me, they'll get the message from me. So
okay, I will be reaching out to you. All right,
sounds
thank
good.
you.
Does anybody else have any questions for us? Okay, Ms. Pickering?
Yes, the firearms that are seized and the money seized, what happens to that?
Good question.
Oh, the first part is it's held as evidence, and then whether eventually it's used in court for prosecution. Hopefully, if not, let's say with firearms, we have to get an order from the court to destroy stuff like that. And I'll let the chief talk about the money, because there's different options with that, and that's not my area of expertise. So, Chief, if you want to help me answer that one.
Sure. The money, first it has to go through the proceedings. Okay. And then we go for asset forfeiture. If it's money that's seized from illegal proceeds, whether it be drug proceeds, gambling, illegal gambling, we don't get much of that anymore, but it's mostly from, I mean, we had a traffic stop where there was $50,000 that was left in a car after a vehicle pursuit, and no one knew whose it was. Okay. There's laws and statutes that we have to follow before it's seized. And remember, it would have been end of 2019, I believe, when we set up a seized evidence money account. Remember when we went through that, because I thought, well, this money, where's it at? How's it, being accounted for and audited? It goes into 3 holding accounts. The first account, first it's in the vault. Second, it goes into a holding account that which enables it for a quick return. And then it goes into the main account where all the money, after it's been approved for a seizure, it stays in there. And that's an Ashland question or answer, but I assume I'm saying it right. And then there's $10,000 a year that we're allowed to use it for non-supplantal training, education, tactical unit equipment, and some other things. And that was an ordinance we passed either late 2019 or 20, if you recall. And we set it up also to where it can't all be used, and if it can't be wasted, overspent on once. The approvals have to come through the mayor's office at my request, and signed off by the comptroller as well. So we put a lot of safeties on that. 50, almost 60,000 of that went to VMEG because it was a case that we were working in collaboration with each other, in cooperation. And the money was turned over to them because they had a long outstanding case with something that was related to that. So, so we don't get it all, but we get some of it. Any other questions on the pop unit?
All right. If not,
Alderwoman Teague, I was just going to follow up on that. These units are set up to work in cooperation with our other details. So we may have a DHA patrol or a JAG supplemental patrol or a community housing unit patrol regular overtime sweep patrols. And what we do is we try to make it and correlate it, or what do you want to call it? Work it in and schedule it to where at any given time it looks like. I've had a lot of people say, "How many officers do you have on the street?" Man, I could have sworn I've seen 20 or 30. But we don't have 20 or 30. But we have, where we used to have 6 or 7 on the street, there's lots of times we'll have 14 or 15. It's how we schedule and manage our manpower during peak hours of operation, peak hours where people are most vulnerable to be victimized. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
And with the community housing unit, that's Commander Webb's in charge of that. They've done an excellent job. And this is a 2-officer unit. So when you look at those numbers and you see what they're able to pull up, and those are quality with 2 officers. But their main and their main priority is building those community relations within high population, small geographical areas, such as Danville Housing or HACD, Vermilion Gardens, Maglii, and other locations where you have a higher vulnerability of victimization. That's where they focus, and they're still able to assist with the pop unit, assist with the patrol guys, and it's just sort of a good marriage of different elements working together to where it's feeling good. Now, we've got a long way to go. We're going to tweak it and keep tweaking it probably till, it can always evolve. But so far, we're liking the direction we're going. Misty?
Forgive my ignorance. What property is Maglii Properties?
That's going to be Green Meadows.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, is there any other questions for the chief or Officer Miller?
Chairman, if I may, I just want to say thank you to the city council. When I was acting mayor, I told you that this was important and it was something that we needed to do, and you all agreed and believed in it, and we gave our officers the support, both financially and otherwise, that they needed, and it's showing results. And I just thank you for that. I'm proud of that. I want to tell you all the time, I hear from the officers how much they appreciate that they have the support of the city council and the people of the city of Danville. So I just wanted to say thank you guys for supporting them and helping us to take back our community.
All right, if there's nothing else, we'll go to item 14B, 2, monthly report for February. Anybody got any questions on that? All right, number 15, doesn't look like we need a closed session this evening. So number 16, items of information. We'll meet by Zoom first Tuesday in June, or next Tuesday. I can't remember, 30th, 1st, 2nd. It'll be the first Tuesday in June. So do that we satisfied everything on the agenda this evening. The only thing we'll need is a motion for adjournment in a second.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Alderman Ludwig,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
Troya Williams,
Yes.
York.
Apologize again. Yes.
Thank you. Pickering,
Yes.
Streeting,
Yes.
6 yes.
Thank you, everybody. We are adjourned.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great
Good job,
evening.
Rick.
Good
Good job,
job,
Rick.
gentlemen.
Take care and be safe.
All right.